Okay, this is a very simple and basic introduction to R Markdown. So we can start out by opening a new file. So normally we would just open a file like this. This time we want to open one of these. So there are lots of different kinds of files we can open up, but we'll just open up this one. And then we'll give it a name, and we'll leave it as HTML. And we click OK. And we get this. So an R Markdown document allows you to run R code, but it also has some text features as well. So let's see what I mean by that. Let's do what we call knitting the document. So after you've written your document, you knit it. So let's try that. Now there's some options here. You can knit it to an HTML document, to a PDF, or to a Word document. Let's try this one first, and maybe we'll try them all, but let's try this one. So you just click that, you give it a name, test HTML or something like that. It starts to run. This is a very short one, so it does it quickly. Sometimes it can take a while. And this is what it looks like. So it's an HTML document, but it's run some code in here to create this document. So we'll take a look at this code in a minute, but this is what it outputs if we run it. Okay, let's try and do a knit with a PDF. Sometimes this doesn't work, but they usually give you a clue about how to fix it. I already fixed mine, so I don't remember what the clue is and what the problem was, but let's just run it. Okay, so it did work for me, but it may not work for you. There's some package I think you have to add as well. So anyway, it looks like this and like that, so you can make a nice PDF as well. And you can also do this as a Word document. That usually doesn't cause me any problems, even from scratch, without adding in any extra packages. There's, I think, some latex package or some kind of text package you need. Anyway, this is the output for a Word document. Okay, let's take a look at what generates this. That is this page here. And the way this works is that you can put in regular text, but you can also put in R code. So the R code occurs wherever you have these triple backticks. And the backtick is, at least on my computers, on the left upper hand of my keyboard. Way up on the upper left hand part of my keyboard, there's a backtick button, and you can type these backticks. So anyway, you have R code. So if you have a backtick here, these three backticks here, and these three backticks here, then inside you can put R code. So this is some kind of R code, and and then we can search for some more examples of R code. So here's another set of backticks. Here's 3, and the ending 3. So in here you can also put R code. This is some R code, and again some more R code, and some more R code, and some more backticks, and here's the R code, and that's all there is. That's all we had, and that generated some of those plots. This generated the plot, and this generated a summary of some data, and so on. Now, besides that, this is the top of the document. We don't really need to worry about this. This is sort of, this was the name of the document, and this was my name. This is when it's created. This we don't really need to worry about. So the first thing we look at is there was some R code here, and this generally needs to be set to have this in there, but it's automatic. When we created the RMD, the R Markdown document, this was created automatically, and so you can just leave that there. And then here we have some what's called R Markdown, and these are like HTML. You know, when you want to do something with HTML, you might do something like this. H1, I think this works. And then you do this is a header, right? Or a heading. And then you have to close the tag, something like this, right? I think this is right. So that's that's sort of like Markdown. It's a way to get this to appear a certain way. So this will appear like bold and large. And that's all this is like an easier way to do that. You don't have to, you don't have to have the ending tags, for example, generally speaking, in Markdown. So the double check mark here with a space, I always forget to put the space, but you have to have a space after it, indicates a kind of, I think this is like an H2, would be like an H2 header. And H1 header would just have one check mark and a space. You do need the space, and I always forget that. But anyway, this would be an H1. I'm sorry, this would be an H2. And let's get rid of that. And then this will just appear as kind of regular text. It won't be like H1 or H2 or something like that. And then this, I think, maybe this makes it bold. These things here, we can check and see what it actually looks like. And then here's another header, including plots. And then this is just regular text. And then some more regular text, and that's all. So let's knit that again. Let's try knitting it with, well, I don't know what I got. Okay, I think I got HTML this time, maybe. I'm not sure. No, I got this one. Okay, so you can see this is a kind of a header. Okay, so you may have noticed that there's little arrows here, here, and each piece of code has an arrow. By the way, these codes are called code chunks. So there's a code chunk here. That's what they say. There's a code chunk here. There's a code chunk here. There's a code chunk here. And there are these arrows for each of the code chunks. And if you click it, you can get the results of the code. The code will run, and you can see what it does, and you can close it if it's getting in your way. And this, I guess you can run all chunks above. So maybe you have to run some previous chunks because part of your code here depends on some code that you've run up here. So maybe you have to run all the previous chunks. I guess that's what that does. You can see that we got the summary here, we got this graph, and then, but we didn't get this one yet. We didn't run that yet. Okay, so here let's read this note. Note that the echo equals false parameter, this one here, and we had that for all of our code chunks, was added to the code chunk to prevent printing of the R code that generated the plot. So if we change this to true, and let's try to knit it again, and this time we're going to see this plot just like we did before, but we'll also see the code that generated it. So if that's what you want, you can make it echo equal true. So let's see that. So here now we can see the code that generates this plot. If you want that, you can make echo equal to true. Okay, now if you want to learn more, there's something, for example, there's something called the R Markdown cheat sheet, so you can learn the code beyond the simple ones that we just used. We used the double check, and I used the single check, or maybe I didn't. So here we can learn other code that will generate R Markdown. So you can use a single check, a double check, and these are also possible. You get header like this, and so on. Italics, you can either do it with one or with this. Bold you can do like this or like this. Superscript, you can do use this, I guess. That gives us superscript 2 like that. Strike through, you can do that. And link, this is an important one. Use square bracket, link, and then brackets here with the link that you want. And so here you'll have a link to link. So I guess this is the code. I'm sorry. This is what you'll see, the text, and this is the site that it'll be associated with. We can also do things like ellipsis and inline equation. This is good. If you want to make a math equation, you can do this kind of stuff. You can take a look at it. You can look it up. There's more details elsewhere. Block quotes like this. I guess like this actually. And then you can do an unordered list, so you have just like this and just like sub-items. Or you can have an ordered list, 1, 2, and then sub-items. And I guess that's most of what we want to do. But you can look this up. You can also look for other tutorials in Markdown and R Markdown. If we look up Markdown in Wikipedia, it's a lightweight markup language for creating formatted text using a plain text editor. These people created it in 2004 as a markup language that is appealing to human readers in its source code form. So it's supposed to be easier to look at than HTML. So again, you just go up to here, File, New File, and R Markdown, and you give it a title, your author name, document, click OK, and here it is. So you have a new one here. You can if you want to start out, you can just use this template, and then don't change this one here, but leave this one in. But the rest of them, you can change this. You can have different headers, but you can just sort of use this as your template, and you can have the chunks here. It's not too hard to create your own chunks. In fact, as I recall, we can, I think here you can add a new code chunk just by doing this. So there. I wonder what the other ones do, like Python. So I guess maybe, I haven't tried this, but maybe you can put Python code in here and it will run. I haven't tried that, and I guess you could put other kinds of code in there as well. Anyway, you can do R. You certainly can put R code here. So if you don't feel like typing, you can just do this. But you have to remember that you need a name for each chunk. So new name 1 or something like that, and then you can and if you want, you can set the echo parameter as well to true or false. Okay, so that's a quick introduction to R Markdown.